All right, so let's do the main course sim now. Now, this is the one I did that I used for the moon landing, and I wasn't super happy with it. It does work, especially once you combine all the other elements. Let's see if I put this one here. Yeah, oh, it's on the wrong side. But yeah, once you combine all the elements, it was fine, but just as a standalone element, I was like, okay, this is what I actually wanted to do. This, and this is not that. And what I'll do in this video is going to be a bit different, but we will do a live demo recreation of this, and hopefully I get it right. Because usually I do a few hours of iterations before I arrive at a good sim. So this one, we're going to go through this one as well, and you will get it in the HIP file, but let's try to recreate this. And then we will also talk about, yeah, how to do the volume, the color on the volumes. So in this case, I used the particle approach. So you would have your color on the particles like so. You would advect them, add some blur so it's not flickery. And you can see we just need some very slight variation. And this is exactly what I was doing, just slight variation in color. And then, yeah, it helps. It really helps when you have just a bit of white and a bit of these sandy colors here. It's not dense enough. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's just the sim, is that right? So let's try to recreate it. This is our reference. A nice gentleman on Twitter sent me this, and I was like, oh, this is exactly why we made the Master Exploder tools for simulations like this, because there's no other way of doing it. Because you can see these are essentially grains. Look at that. That's the grains, the MX emitter, you know. And you can also then add some RBDs or whatever, but that's how you make complex looking shapes and explosions. There's just, I don't know any other way of how you would actually go about it. And here I did a bit of a draw over of some of the shapes that we need to get this done, but also there's like a bunch of different stages. So stage 1 is quite linear. Stage 2, it breaks up a bit, and then at stage 3, this is where our emitter should stop emitting density. So it's quite fast after like 10 frames, I would say. And this is also a good reminder why we need these when we're gonna, when we're trailing. This still goes forward and it doesn't balloon out. They don't become like that, and that happens. You can fix that with the pump, but this is in general gets kind of fixed with just trailing, just having long trails, and the trails are slowly dying off. So each particle has a trail, and that's the whole kind of point of the MX tools, right? And they will slowly keep dragging that velocity forward, preventing it from ballooning out or just mushrooming in general. So yeah, that's our reference. And then we have a lot of wind with low frequency just being pushed to the right. Sweet. So let's do that. So this is where I was kind of already trying this, and I got an okay result. This is very low res, but it was going in that, going up and then to the right. Too much disturbance, but had the general idea of this explosion. So let's redo it here, main core sim. We're gonna do a MX shape. This is version 1.11. Ground. So we need the ground. So that's good. We need to go here and just increase the radius of this. And then directional bias is up, like so. We don't need that right now, but yeah, just it still goes to the right, and maybe we need more. I think noise is fine. Maybe one more noise, but random spikes, I think we need more of them. Maybe radius and sharpness. Just play around with that. Maybe a bit more to the sides. We're gonna add up velocity, but something like this could work. We'll see. So let's do a MX sim. So that's a good way to just quickly test if this is working. Plug this in. Let's do collision ground plane. Blast it. So yeah, goes to the sides. Quickly check it against our reference. It's very linear. I think ours is already broken up a bit more, which is good. So let's kind of go with that. And what we need is, let's see the scale of that. I think we are a bit too big in general, so I will just lower the scale. Okay, so this goes quite a bit to the sides, and we need definitely more particles. Something like that. And let's add a push up sphere. Oh, let's first do a basic push up with our velocity. Plus equal CHV push up. Let's check our velocity. Let's push it up like so. And now if we check our emitter, it's just gonna be weave going up. It's not exactly, we still want some of that, but we do want the push up. So now I'll plug in the sphere, which is at the center. I'm gonna put it to a primitive, so only 1 point. And now we can first put this into CD. We're gonna do a distance between our position and the position of second input. Fetch the position on 0.0. That's good. But now we need to fit this between min, max, 0, and 1. And let's see. So we want to multiply the bottom. Something like that. So let's call this, core. And multiply our up by that core. And let's check now. So now we definitely go up more. Let's multiply a bit less. But we still kind of keep that core a bit. Let's check our reference. Yeah, mostly everything goes up. Let's do... yeah, something like that. Let's do a flipbook just to get, even with this, you can see how even just this looks like that explosion, right? So I wanna, yeah, I just check at various stages if everything feels good. Poof, goes up. Feels good. Are we a bit slow? Feels a bit faster, right? We can speed it up later. And then I'll do this post-sim expansion. So it feels like it's actually exploding, but not from absolute zero. So we already want this little guy, and then it expands. Sweet. So we have that. What else do we need? Sometimes I add, if you want to break it up, your shape, I would layer these guys. So the source sim, I would layer them, go to source, attributes, and velocity. And I would add noise to our velocity. So let's see. So like that, zero centered, add, so amplitude. And here you can then start changing that velocity. So something like that. And now if we blast it, this is going to break up that shape by quite a lot. Maybe it's even better than this one. Yeah, you can combine them, you know, go crazy. Be an artist. Think for yourself and be an artist. So yeah, this is good. You can definitely play around with these noises and layer up your emitters to get even more complex looking emitters. But this felt like it was quite simple. Maybe the only layer that we could use is that spray layer. But again, I would like either sim that separately and then combine it, or so this spray layer here, that's what I'm kind of talking about. So misty grains looked like this. It's like just like a general layer of spray. You don't really see it that well, but something like that was working quite well. Even for this one, it could work really well, to be honest. So how we would go about that, we would just duplicate this. Duplicate, go under source, attraction weight, and lower the attraction weight by quite a lot. So now this would give us a very similar emitter, but just more spray. So you can go even less. And then if we cross-reference it with this one, yeah. So then you can combine it. If we need to, we will do it. I don't know yet. Okay, so at this stage, I think we have everything that we need. So we will file cache this around 100, but we don't really need 100 because the emitter should die off in like the first 15 frames, really. I think that's enough. Flying up, yay. Okay, so I feel like in general it's too slow, so I will do a retime. And I'll put this to cubic just in case. Let's check if we have all the in-betweens and everything is looking nice. That's good. And I will just put this to 1.3. Well, now I need to check. Yeah, it's all good. Yep, that's feels like the right speed. So retime, you could do even a retime just at the beginning, so it feels more explosive. But I think in this case, I think we're good. So MX source attributes. So this is version 1.14, this is version 1.10, and this one is version 1.11, just so you know. Okay, so we have that. Now we have to do let's visualize our age. Grayscale inverted. It's very noisy, so let's go under life. Life variance to 0. Let's see, by default. It looks very nice, very organic, but lives for too long. So let's put this to 0.4, so it dies fast, and then add noise on top. Maybe like 1. Maybe like 3. And sometimes I would animate this, so would go from 3, from like 1 to 3. And then if you want this to die off, if this is living for too long, you can animate it down if you want to. But I think in this case it was fine. So I'm just going to leave it. How big is this? 10, 15 meters. Does this look like 15 meters? Probably a bit big. Might need to scale it down, honestly. These are some of the older caches. Okay, I think for now this is going to work. So what we need to do is create our source attributes. So we're going to do density, temperature. We can do divergence here as well, but I just usually use density as divergence, so I'll bypass that. Well, actually, yeah, that's all then we need. So temperature, density. Let's do a rasterize volume. Let's check our density, and we need our temperature, and I'll put this to normalize by density. And we will do particle scale to 0.2. And here you can see how our emitter is going to die off, which is, it feels quite organic. Maybe now we're like too square, but after we add some of the divergence and turbulence, it might be fine. Or we have to go then back up and change the emitter. So while we are here, also don't forget you can add noise and randomization to your fields right here, and even to your velocity. So output, we don't need clumping. We do need the trails, put this to like 3. So they're nice and long, maybe even less, more. And then put this to like 8, so we have enough points in between. This feels like we need to go lower, something like that. And then I usually put down a visibility and I just visualize density. I think that's it. Let's do a file cache and start simulating, because that's the fastest way we're going to know if our emitter works. Okay, we have our emitter cache. Now I will just copy this .NET, well, this whole bottom part. It's going to be a lot easier. Plug this in. I'm going to remove the skadoosh. We don't need the pump. We might need the pump, but maybe not. And this is set to 0.3, and I'm going to put this to 1, just so we have fast results. Okay, so this could work. I like this. It's very explosive. Not exactly what we're going for, so let's see what is causing it. Put divergence to 0. Yep, that was it. So what we have is density as divergence, temperature as temperature, V as vel, and density as density, right? Very simple. So let's put this to 0 as well. And we just get nice trails. Let's see what happens when we have our velocity up. I think I forgot to cache our velocity. I did. Again. Cache again. Okay, now we should have velocity. So back. Now it's going to be too much velocity. So you see now, like if we look at our reference, it's not really ballooning out, right? The trails stay quite consistent. So which means that we cannot have a lot of velocity. That I think is acceptable. Maybe 1. Let's add a bit of divergence so we get, it's too much. Just so we get a bit of that at the core. I think we are missing that spray layer, to be honest. Let's add our temperature back on. So the temperature is going to now create that billowing going upwards. So that kind of looks like what we're going for. That's good. So now we need the skadoosh. Pyro helpers. Just remove this. Skadoosh. So the first one is just going to be our wind. Enable wind. Add maximum speed, put this to 10. A bit of it going upwards. Let's visualize the settings. Go lower on the frequency because it was like very big. Just a very big wind. So something like that. It's way too strong now, but we're just checking how it looks. So a bit lower on the direction. And now process, put this down. Maybe to 3. Let's do a quick flipbook. Oh, still too much. And our wind is quite consistent. There is a bit of arcing that happens here, but that's also because of the ground collisions. But we could just do like a small mask by height p.y. But see, like that is gonna naturally happen as well. Yep, feels about right. Maybe still a bit too fast. But not, yeah, it is. So 0.7. Okay, so we have our wind. Now we could start adding disturbance in the same one or create another one. So if you want this to just be your, you know, your wind, and then you would start merging the other ones, you can do that. So that would be your wind, and now we would go with the disturbance. Let's just do a global 50. See what happens. Okay, now it starts looking a bit more like an explosion that we're after. Way too much. I always just plug this into a speed, and like this is like the default values that I usually give it. So if it's moving slower than 1, it's not gonna be adding. I think in general 50 is too high, so like just put it to 30. Let's check again. Yeah, it's feeling very similar. And now we would have to go lower and start dialing in that disturbance more and more. Maybe add turbulence as well. And this is where the kind of the finessing comes into play. Kind of feel like the disturbance is still a bit high, but it might be okay. I don't like this big bulge that's happening here. What if we add more? We animate the temperature. Or maybe not. Maybe this is gonna work just as fine. Yeah, kind of like this. So now we would have to go even lower. And by this point, what I would do is I would start exporting this. So this is DOP11 and smoke object. So this, and they would copy this here and just use density. That's all we need for now. And yeah, let's cache like, I don't know, like 40 frames, but I'll still go to like 1.5. I still want fast iterations. Like I don't want to get too slowed down already, but the final sim usually would take around like half an hour. But when I'm doing these very fast iterations, I don't want to wait at all. So in that case, you know, using Pyro is fine and it's very stable, production ready. It's gonna just robust and it's gonna work. But it is once you go to above like 30 million voxels, it does get a bit slower. So this looks horrible, but if we start density, remap density, so I do these HDAs for myself. Right now, I think with the recipes, that would be more efficient, but what the heck, this works as well. So I just do them for like this, and then we plug this here. And once you do the density remap, see, it starts looking a lot better. We don't need to multiply it up by a lot. And let's do less this just a bit of sharpening, but not too much. Okay, let's do a quick flipbook of this just to get it. I think we need to animate maybe our disturbance so it's higher at the beginning and then animate it down. But I just want to get compared to this, the general feeling. That's what is important to me. What is the general feeling? We don't have enough frames. This feels faster, so that's something we would have to fix. I think we have way too much too much temperature. So I would go down to 3 again. And let's, for the heck of it, let's add this spray as well. So I will simulate the spray. I think that's going to be enough. So spray, and I will just duplicate this whole thing. So you could plug it into the same one, but you might have issues with IDs. So you have to do that interleaving setup. But if you just do this, it's going to be completely fine. And now we can change the settings. So we can offset the live noise. So disable the trailing so you can quickly iterate. Age, so let's just do an offset. So at different times, this is gonna die. And maybe let's do 2. And maybe have this one live just a bit longer in general. So here we are going to do trails, output back to trails. Let's see. Yeah, feels good. Feels good. And cache this as well. I think that's enough. So here we would now combine these two. Now we will have multiple densities. That's okay. If you want to combine them, you can do a post process. And that will combine. Combine volumes. So now we are back to just one. Let's see. So that feels much better. Much more close to that reference we have. So let's do a quick flipbook. And again, I won't be able to get it to exactly that reference because it would take me a lot longer. What I'm seeing now is that the way this is dying is a bit weird. But honestly, this feels like very like just a giant ball. But this also becomes just a giant ball. See this? That's what I'm saying. Like it just missing it. We would have to break it up a bit. But honestly, like once you start looking, if we check our grains as well. No trailing. I want that color, so I'll do a quick hack here. So we get that color. Now we're gonna blast. And then you can start combining this with your grains to see how that would feel as well. I think here we would need to make this even thinner, like so. And then sometimes you just need to change the offset in the life if it doesn't feel like it's doing the right thing, or make them live a bit longer or a bit shorter. And yeah, it's all about massaging it. That's why I'm saying I don't want to waste too much of your time doing all of that, but that's what I would be doing, like going up and down and changing the emitter. If I feel like I'm hitting a wall with the sim, it's usually the emitter's fault. So I would then go back and maybe change a bit of some of the noise, resim again, and see if that helps it. Let's see if we remove that. The beginning definitely feels right. Maybe we do need more velocity. So they get pushed just a tiny bit more. Let's go to 2. Okay, let's sim this one. We are very close. We're like Usually it's like once you get here, you're like, okay, now you just tweak the values, maybe like add just another layer with, but that's exactly what I was doing. That's what I'm saying. If we go here, you create your main core, you do the shockwave, and then you do the big chunks, which I think we're missing as well. And then you have the Misty. You simulate each one individually so you have full control. And then you just merge them at the end, right? Now we're kind of trying to do it in one sim again. Okay, feels good. Becomes one big ball of density. We remap it. See, that helps a lot. I'm not gonna sharpen it. Maybe something like that. So poof. It's too soft. It's too round, which means we have too much temperature or too much velocity. So let's see, which one is it? Has to be more sharp. So more sharp. So that's definitely working. We do need some velocity. Let's see if the velocity kills that. Yeah, see, like we get these balls, right? So put this down. Just tiny bit of velocity. And now I think we're missing some of that billowiness. Maybe something like this. Let's try one. Oh, and also I want to check again. Okay, we're only bringing density. Okay. Just want to quickly check. Okay, so that's a lot of voxels. What we have to do is actually do a post process here as well. So we are combining to, otherwise this is a volume, Houdini volume. So we need to convert to VDB. But yeah, now it becomes a bit slow to iterate. I don't know what happened. What the heck happened? Yeah, no idea. Sometimes the viewport just glitches out like that. But yeah, we would need to break this even more. So if we look against this has much more of those breakups. So we would have to do a pyro helper. Let's go back to 3 and do a turbulence. Let's put it to 15 just to see where we are. Yep, that's good. Also on your disturbance, put this to like 2 or 3. Just so it's eroding a bit of that core as well. So just too much. Control field, always put this into speed 1, 3, and 3. So this to 3 now. And because now we're destroying a lot of the velocity, we would maybe need to do more, either more temperature or animate this turbulence down a bit. But it feels like it is breaking those shapes quite nicely. So maybe we do need to now add a bit more temperature so we get that rising up motion again. And then the wind picks it up. I would probably animate this. So we go from like 3 to 0.3. something like that. And let's maybe okay. That changed it a lot, so I'm going back to low res to see how it's going to behave. But see, yeah, this is starting to look much more like the reference. But now, yeah, it's all about getting that the right resolution for this, so the turbulence and disturbance can actually, you know, act upon those voxels and kind of disturb them. Let's see, I think we are too triangular. Yeah, this was a bit more curved than what we are right now, but you know, it's not that far off. This feels good. It's starting to feel good, that's for sure. Yeah, so let's save it again. So if you want, I usually don't do this, but then if you want, you can start doing wedges with different settings. So instead of waiting here for each cache, you would just create a bunch of wedges and change the settings for each one. So I usually don't do it because you saw like even changing the divergence from 0.1 to 0.08 is going to change the sim quite a bit, and then I have to quickly tweak. But you can do like 5 or 6 or like overnight or put them on the farm. And that way you will get a good range of different settings. I know a lot of people who really like to do wedges, and I just really don't like to do wedges. We're doing wedges right now, but these are just like more manual tweaks and iterations. But I definitely don't like waiting. This is killing me right now. That's why it's so bittersweet. I like doing explosions and, you know, developing all of these workflows. That's all great. But waiting on simulations is the worst thing ever. This video is already 50 minutes. So you see how long it, like, we're going through it quite fast, but this is how long it would take me to, go by the reference, try to match. And the biggest issue why this takes that long is like the whole waiting on caches problem. And this is fast right now. Like once we do, if we sim the high res, this would be easily like 20, 30 minutes. Okay, let's see. I think we are maybe... remapping this a bit too much. Yeah, it's starting to feel good. It's starting to feel good. If we add this thing that we were doing before, so we add these grains, and we do the same with these guys. This is a bit jank. We're going into that jank territory. But honestly, that's how it is. Things are janky. Embrace the jank. Maybe we only need this. We definitely don't need trailing. Let's do a quick flip book. Yeah, this is starting to feel very good. Poof. One thing that I'm noticing is that, see this emitter? This is what we had before, guys. Just remember, we came from this, now we're here. Yeah, this feels good. We just have to sim it at much higher res and for longer. So one thing that I also notice is, so we have this, it goes up, but it feels like these grains, they leave this smoke behind quite fast. So what I'm thinking is we would almost need to do another emitter like this, because these are quite connected right now, but just like have another one that is faster. So we would do, not sure if this would work, but just another branch entirely. Source sim. Source solver attributes velocity, pre-multiply it. So this is going to shoot up faster now. Probably 2. And I would, on this one, I would add higher attraction weight and less grains. And now I would cache this. Cache this, retime it, redo everything the same, but these guys are just going to be, trails are good. This is going to be very thin. As thin as we can go. Let's see, what if we go to point? Nah, it's fine. Gaussian, just to blur it a bit. And cache these ones now. Merge it. Go back to 3. So I would probably bring those in as a separate might be fine. But instead of merging, you could do a separate volume source, because now these, maybe on those trails, we don't need any divergence. But maybe we just got a bit lucky. Let's do a quick cache and see if we get that feeling that those grains are kind of going above. And maybe on this strand, we wouldn't need temperature as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, let's check. So we would do this and no trailing. Just check. So yeah, see that? So these would go above. So now we're kind of getting that feeling, right? Poof. Yeah, I think that's it. And then just do a high res version of this. Ah. So I'll go to 1 and like 3 or 4 here. So this would be now quite high res. All right, we have our high res simulation done. And it looks pretty good. I think we're getting close to our reference, but if I would be nitpicking, so putting my supervisor hat on, this is fine. This feels a bit off, but it happens so fast that you don't you don't kind of see it. I would probably add, so my first note would be, this is too clean. Like it's literally too clean. So I would probably say, just add something here, just a bit. Maybe have one. Something like that. So something is missing here. But you saw on the ref, it was quite linear. It was like very boxy at the beginning, but that's we can art direct this, and it's hard to art direct real explosions. So that would be my first one. Second one would be, I want some of these ones to live longer. Some of them, I want them falling on the ground and bouncing. Not all of them, just like a few more. Like they die off too soon. So this would be, I don't know if this was coming from the spray. See, this is what happens when you start combining everything. We don't know exactly which element. I think it's this one. So this one, I would maybe do another one. So this is for you to do and to improve this. But I would probably do another one, or on this one, I would increase the life, not on the sim. Stop simulating. No. This is so annoying when it just wants to go. On the MX source. So here, I would, these ones. So yeah, these ones, I would want them to live a bit longer. Let's remove the trailing so it's in real time. So two ways of doing it. Either duplicate this and create another one that lives longer and sim it separately and add it later. So you have control. Not everything needs to be in the same sim. Or increase the life of this guy here. Let's see what we get on the middle strand. So the middle, I would want a few of these to live longer. And on this guy, I would want a few of these to live longer. See, they die off too perfectly. So you would have to noise up this even more. So attributes, noise. So here we could have them live longer. The problem is, yeah, just like that. I think just like that. So I would probably have to now recache this. There is going to be an issue. They are still going to die in a bit of a linear fashion. But see, now they're going to hit the ground. So maybe even a bit longer. Yeah, I want them hitting the ground for sure. The problem is we need the trailing. So now it's going to be a bit slower. I was like, why is this caching so fast? This is amazing. But now we're really getting in the nitty-gritty, like picking through this. So what else? These ones. So we are now here. I would want more here and honestly a bit more here. I like this. This is very good. See how this connects? I want more of that here. So this one looks okay as well. But yeah, just this here, which means that that was our third strand that we added. See, these ones, more here. So again, either have these ones live longer or do another layer so it covers this side as well. That's how you then start adding. Once you, it's like with sculpting, you start with a block you add 1, 2, and 3 kind of elements, and then you get your simulation. After we have the simulation, we can now see, okay, this is working, add a bit more here. So that's how I would approach this. So let's see what else. I don't like that it takes up to 21 frames for this to start billowing. So let's see, I did another version here. So this is our high res, which has quite a bit of voxels, and this is a bit lower res. And I think I added a bit more divergence, and I increased the substeps to 2. So if you increase the substeps, that's gonna kind of make the disturbance work faster. So it's gonna see, like at this point, like it's already quite disturbed, but the previous one was, I don't feel like it took longer for it to get disturbed. And here I think, yeah, this is not the worst, like getting this kind of one mushroomy part. It's not the worst, but this looks more close to our reference. So that's what I usually also do, is once I'm happy with most things, I then try on 2, setting the substeps to 2. So let's see, this feels quite good. Same issues than that before. Like I really like this strand, but I would want, like this feels too round. I want some of them falling down. Everything else feels decently good. I might want another element with just a few of these guys still trailing. So that, but like a really select few, not a lot. So I like this, these really thin trails. So I want some of them here. So for that, you would probably have to do another, just like we were doing for them, just duplicate this, have it more here, right? And yeah, that's how I would then start adding. So, but the main problem was this is too triangular. So for that, that's coming from this guy. Well, it's coming from all of them. So what I would do probably is play around with the noise on the velocity. So you can do that here. So we had our velocity here. I'm previewing something else. So here we could do a point velocity and do keep incoming at kernel noise, and then the swirl size, something like that. So you see, like just without doing this, this is our velocity. So it's very, that's where the issue is coming from. If we do this, we're gonna break it. So just by doing that, I think it might be enough, but who knows? Yep, that works. See, we broke that shape. Maybe it's a bit too much, so because the reference was also kind of like that. But yeah, just a bit. See, broke it up. So that's one way of doing it. The other way would be here, source, attributes, velocity, and then noise up your velocity. This would be another way of doing it. Or you could, again, just duplicate this whole strand. So instead of re-simming all of this, because this was working fine, this looks good, just do another one. Just copy this, do it on the side, and plug it back in. And that will give you just additional elements here. Like, don't break what is already working. So yeah, there's just like a lot of different workflows, you know. There's no really any right or wrong. It's just something that comes naturally, and you have to start experimenting on your own, really. I'm just giving you like all the possible ways that I'm thinking about it based on just doing this for a lot of years. And yeah, that's it. So another thing I added here is once you have your grains, sometimes they're a bit chunky, they're big. You remember when we were doing the rotate grains? Well, you can, I kind of forgot to do it here, but I would probably want the big chunks, so these guys, to rotate as well a bit. We didn't have any of that on the reference, that's why I didn't do it, but I would probably add a few rotating ones, but also just for visualizing. So once we have our sims, one other thing I forgot to mention was, so on this high res, once we go like frame 40, so it was looking good from this side, but as soon as I start rotating, I saw a few problems like this. So this is coming from the sparse bounds. So what you would have to then do is go inside, and here on the resizing, I usually put this to 1, expand, and put padding to 1. It's going to make it a bit slower because now the bounding box is going to be bigger, but that's going to help with those issues. So even put this to 7. Sweet. The rotate. Okay, so we have this. Great. And then once we add the grains, I thought some of them were a bit chunky. Look at that. It's huge. I want to scale them down. How do you do that? So I use the same grains rotating setup. This is all the same up until here. So we assemble. So now we have centroids for each chunk, right? We still make them rotate like we were doing so far, because I thought this just adds a lot more visual flair to it. Make rotate. Then we do centroid. So get center. I misspelled it. I will leave it. No, I'm not. Center. What am I doing? So get center. Because these are just centroids, we can just say, well, what is your position? Store it in center. Here, we're going to unpack these. So now we're back to points. And we can now, because we have the IDs and everything is matching, we can just say, well, on these points and these points, just copy. It's like doing an attribute copy, really, based on ID. And just get me that center attribute that we have here, right? So here, once we unpack, we still are working on those primitives. So we copy here and then we add to remove those primitives. If you remember from before, when we were doing this rotate, we had to do this in order to rotate to use the prim intrinsics, right? So all of this, just in case you don't remember. So we add. And then here, in this attribute VOP, we are essentially just, so if we remove this, we are just mixing between center and position. So we have this center attribute, so which is literally our center, and then just mixing between our position and the centroid position. But obviously now this is linear, so we can just say, well, what is our ID? Because it's consistent. Just give me a random value per chunk, and we can even visualize it. Oh, what is happening in the color? So now with this visualizer, we can see what is going to get big, what is going to stay small. And now we can use this in our mix, right? So now we're going to have a nice controller to control our little chunkies falling down. So I thought that was sweet. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So we made these live longer. Let me re-simulate this. And then we are going to tackle the color. Okay, I did a few quick updates. So I added it's exactly what I was saying. I just added another strand here with the noise, so it breaks up the shape even more, and then I made it quite tiny in terms of like it's only in this area and it lives a bit longer. What I was doing here on the source attributes, something I never talked about before, but you have these value corrections, which are pretty cool. So without this, it was looking like that. So I was looking at through here. I was like, they die off too fast. And I was like, yeah, just add a bit more contrast and a bit more gamma. I think it's going to be like if we enable this. So with this, you can now control your noise values to a more delicate extent, right? So more contrast, make it more contrasty. So yeah, I think this is quite cool. So got something like that. And then I merged it in. And then if you preview this one, I didn't sim it all the way, but yeah, now we have a bunch more of these strands. What I would like to see, it's pretty good, but maybe one of the strands, it would be nice to get some more billowing happening here. So like that. What we would have to do probably for that is, so what we would have to do is duplicate this one, bang, maybe do second geometry and plug it straight into the second input, so it's separate. And now we can control, let's see, this has, yeah, temperature, density, and velocity. And now we could control this separately. So let's actually kill this one and see what just this guy is doing. Okay, good. So if we wanted more divergence, more of that billowing, we would have to do this. So it's quite thin. So you would have to go quite much higher to get any divergence even. And then we would need to pump. I usually go to extremes just to see what it's doing. So yeah, see that is going to give us that additional billowy element that I was talking about. It's exactly, I lost the drawing. But yeah, now if we combine this, hopefully this is not going to explode on us. So a bit too much divergence, so I would kill that. But now these trails are gonna create some of those. So let's go back with divergence. But now these trails, I can already see like they're kind of taking over a bit, and they're gonna create the billowy areas. Maybe this one might be too much. So let's do one preview. Oh, and I'm going to talk about the bouncy grains in a second. So see, they take over. Yeah, not the biggest fan of this guy, but this is kind of like what I wanted. So I think we would have to just reduce a bit of that. Just kind of do an in-between. Yeah, I'll probably remove this guy. But overall, yeah, that's how I would do it. If you want to start adding, see, this feels good, except for, yeah, maybe like this feels a bit more broken up like that. This feels good. But yeah, if we look at it from here, I would probably remove this. But honestly, I'm like, this is really nitpicking now. But I would probably put this to 2. And then for the grains, so I extended. Let me actually do a quick sim of this. Okay, so we have this sim. Let's see. Goes up. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So some of these trails, so they take over. So they're not single trails like this one, but they actually merge into and create the billowy shapes later. So that's working fine. This is a bit too uniform, but from this side kind of looks okay. And then what I wanted was these ones to stay alive longer and kind of bounce on the ground a bit. So overall, this feels quite nice. I don't like this one, and I would, once you go to 2 substeps, this is going to change a bit. And this is a very low res, but like the beginning feels good. So it's like, doop, doop. There's some, we need more. Yeah, the 2 substeps would fix. So what I'm looking at here is, stop. So here I'm seeing this substepping issue. So maybe our trails are not long enough, or when you put it to 2 substeps, that also might be gone. This feels good, looks good. I like this. This feels very natural, falls down like that. You can kind of see it bouncing a bit on the ground. This could live even longer. Would be nice to have just a few more that live even longer. This is too much disturbance. Once you go to 2 substeps, it would be less disturbance. And what I would also probably do, so we have the skadoosh. I would probably duplicate the disturbance. I'll just do another one. We also have a, you can put just down the gas disturb separately. And I would probably do something like this. Speed like 8, 3 to 3, and just put it lower. So this would be a lower block size, more constant disturbance all over the place. Still based on speed, but not 100%. And so block base is 0.1. This one was 0.2. So for the block base, I usually just eyeball it, I play around based on the scale of the explosion. But this one would definitely only start becoming visible once you go to the higher resolutions. Because right now we're 0.9. Yeah, like on 0.1, this super small one would become apparent. Because here it was, yeah, you could still see the shapes too much, but I do have to say we usually overdo disturbance. And that's, in a lot of cases, what makes CG explosions look too CG, is like too much disturbance. This looks very nice though. See that? This looks very cool. Very natural. So the other thing I did was, so on this side, I added bounce and a bit of sliding on the ground because I wanted to extend the life of just this part, and I wanted it to hit the ground. So for that, you need to do a few things. First, I changed to this static collider and put down a grid. Otherwise, I was getting issues with bounces, but maybe that was not it. I think the main issue is this, if you go under advanced, this max acceleration. So if I duplicate this and disable the animated, if this is set to 3, and I'll put this to lower particle size just so it's a bit faster. So if that is set to 30, we are going to get sliding, but no bouncing. If you disable this, we're going to get everything. But you see it's even going up higher now because it's not limiting the acceleration. Now it's going to go all crazy. It's going to be bouncing and sliding and do all sorts of things. Even if you go under your collisions now, under static, and you put 0, 0 here, it's still going to be bouncing. So yeah, it's a bit weird. I don't exactly know why the solver is doing that, but if you put the max acceleration to like 800 or 1500, then it's going to start behaving a bit more like, see, you get a bit of bouncing and a bit of sliding forward, which is what I wanted. But yeah, I had to do it with this max accel. So just a bit of a hack there. But okay, I think that in most cases this would be quite, in most cases this would be quite complete in terms of getting this explosion. Just you would have to do a more high-res version, but overall I think it feels quite good. The only other thing you could try adding is the pump. So on one of these ones, right, you would, sorry, not here. Oops, I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. But yeah, on here, the only other thing you could experiment with is adding pumps, and that would give you even more of this, what we're getting here, like this nice kind of trailing, and see how naturally it transitions into a plume. That's what we're looking for. Especially looking at this guy. Oof, see that? Super natural. That's kind of what the pump would be doing. But we, instead of using the pump, we just added another strand here. But if you do want to do it here, you just plug in your pump, and it's the second input is going to show up. So now your pump is going to be, it's going to live longer, and by default, it's going to be longer. The trail is going to be longer, just so the pump can do its thing. So see these trails, right? The original trail is this long, but then the pump is going to be, let me do another color, so like green. So the pump is going to be longer, and it's going to go over, and it's still going to be expanded here. So that will allow it to push this up for a bit longer than the original emitter. So this and this, see that? So the pump is longer, and you can even add a forward extension. So now it's longer in both directions. So yeah, stuff like that. Ooh, it's a lot of stuff. But that's how it's done if you want full control and if you want to really art direct it. All right, so I think that's it. I think I said everything I wanted to say about this. And let's go and do the color next.